Welcome to Free Range. Scott Lemriel reveals the deliberately hidden truth and the way for others to recover it with knowing certainty by their own direct awakening experiences. To be effective, revealing hidden truth must also involve assisting others, with friends from very far out of town, to recover who they are and all they once knew before it was taken from them. Here is your host, Gail of Gaia, with her guest, Scott Lemriel.
This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, and I'm back with Scott Lemriel, and we've been off for a period of time, and I'm so happy to be back on with him, and I'm sure you are as well. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Gail. Been about a month, right? A little over a month.
Yeah.
Well, stuff happens. You got to deal with stuff on there. We were talking about consciousness is everything. And what do we mean by that? It's a pretty bland, universal statement. Doesn't really mean a lot to people. But when we're talking about negative situations on Earth,
right,
situations that we have to deal with, then the real challenge for people is to become detached from adding their energy into something that's negative. Because if people throw negative energy at negative energy or angry at situations, then it just creates a consistent flow of the same thing. It connects to that and empowers always having problems with it. So we have to pull away from throwing stones at others, being negative and angry, because if you are, it will just complicate or delay any situation. It's throwing a negative into a negative, and you can't get positive results out of that. It's impossible. So we were talking about consciousness is everything. It means when we're consciously aware that we aren't a physical body, we approach every difficulty or problem with the awareness of what we are that is not physical. It's the spherical shaped energy being that is what people from other worlds call Atma or Atman, which is the pearl form of it, which comes out of India, maybe a little Hinduism, but not really of an Hindu nature. And it really didn't originate in India either. It came from off-world. Like the word human, human or huwoman, didn't originate on this earth either. People just assume it did. The language is developed here out of the dirt. An amoeba was walking along, started walking upright, grew some legs, grew some arms, had a big brain, and then it started saying human in language.
I know.
No, I mean, maybe on another world a billion years ago, but here, no. The cultures and the people and humans that, as they are today, as unconscious as people really are on this planet, and they really are, they did not evolve in this form on Earth originally, this form of genetic structure. It's not new. We didn't look like Aborigines, or we didn't look like, I don't want to use that, that's not right. We didn't look like Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon man 50,000 years ago. Those are extinct humanoid species. We didn't look like cavemen 10,000 or 100,000 years ago, because that is what became Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon later on. We're not any of that.
But they told us we were.
Well, in school, because it's all theory, isn't it? It's based on what they believe, not on what they know. There's no missing link anywhere in this world they'll ever find that can prove, and there is no proof, that we came from fish from the sea, dinosaurs. A fish got to walking on his flippers, and then he started walking upright. Pretty soon we were human beings.
That never made sense to me.
Maybe that made a more evolved fish, but it never became a human being from that. So, they're not going to find it on Earth because the missing link is not on this planet. People didn't evolve here. They evolved not even in the Milky Way galaxy originally. They evolved long ago out in the many galaxies and were brought here one time or another, especially after the dinosaurs were made extinct. And that was about 65 million years ago. Means people in our form could come to this planet and live here in different cycles since that time, long ago.
Why do you suppose this planet got the name of being a prison planet? Was it because people couldn't get off once they got stuck here or something?
That's part of it. How many people do you know that you ever meet in life that can tell you who they are, what they are that isn't physical, or where they came from before this life with any
I think I just met one just recently. She knew where she was from, and I'm going, wow, that's really cool.
That doesn't mean she remembers everything.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it's a prison planet in the sense that people have been put here illegally as political prisoners without telling anybody they were captured or killed or tortured or placed here, stuffed in a body here, and commanded to reincarnate with no memory. That took place off planet, out in galactic history. People on Earth think they're normal, and it's okay to be born on a world with no memory, grow up as an adult, not know who you are, that isn't the body they look at in a mirror, how to move that, whatever that is, around in the universe when the body's asleep at night, because they do it every night anyway. How do you, on a planet like that, if people can't remember what they are, what they look like as the Atma, which extraterrestrial advanced races call Atma, we would call soul. People talk about soul all the time. They don't know what it is or what it looks like. Or they think it's like an astral body. Maybe it's a luminous body that looks like you. And that's soul. No. That's the astral body living on another plane. And it's not the Atma that runs those two bodies, astral and physical. It isn't. Never will be. No matter how you cover it up with theory, it's not going to change the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And on Earth, people don't know the facts of their own originality, their own existence, where they originated from, or how they came to be on this planet. They don't know.
So true.
They do not know. And they think it's normal because they have no other choice than to kind of, it's like being in denial on a planetary scale. They can't find the answer, so everybody just agrees it's God's will. Whatever God is, and they don't know what that is either.
And then they were kind of misled or misdirected in a lot of ways by many. I know we don't like to talk about anything religious, but
well, politics, you got to put it where it is. In history on this planet, all religions came out of tyrant royal family bloodlines controlling priestcraft to control the people. All religions came out of that. And it works very well to keep people ignorant all their lives, believing in something they'll find out maybe when they die, but not sure.
Yeah.
About it. Because they don't have direct experience about going out there into the other dimensions before they die to know for themselves. And they think that's not possible because they don't have any way to do it that they know of. But that doesn't mean it isn't possible or that it cannot be discovered or recovered during this lifetime, because it can. I'm an example, a living example of that fact. And I share that with people, not just on this show, but Perry's show and conferences around the world, in my books, and everything that I'm endeavoring to get done to help others from other worlds bring about a transformation on this planet for the first time in galactic history. And that's really...
Boy, we are so ready for that.
Yeah. You know, if people first hear about... Casher, my nose, I think. They first hear about what I do with my work. Somebody will write me. For instance, I was on this radio show out of Denmark, a TV show, and they had seen my work somewhere, and there'd been a lot of prominent people that were on the show, and I was on it for 2 hours and 8 minutes. And they just raved about the experience they had during it. Even on those kind of things, though, with radio shows or anything else, the people and the questions that they put to me were coming from fear of the future. And what surprised them most was how I handled and turned that into a constructive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It just turned everything around. I told them before I got on the show, I don't deal with fear, doubt, speculation, theory, fear of the present or the future in any way, shape, or form. It is a complete and total waste of time. All of it. So you're not going to get on these shows and debate who did what and what other UFO researcher did this or that or the other thing. My work isn't relative to their work. It isn't. It's not in collaboration with what they do. They don't work with other people in these fields of disclosure. They don't work with me. My work stands in its own gravity for its own very focused purpose. And it doesn't have anything to do with the speculation and theory and debate everybody's caught up in on this planet. Because it's all Anytime someone tries to deliver what's called hidden truth to the public and mixes fear or negativity about the future in it, it just misdirects people. It's really a waste of time.
Yeah,
So
we deal with a
do
lot
I
of
don't
fear on a daily basis.
So I don't deal with that in my work.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that most people do, and sometimes they don't even realize that it's a form of fear.
Right. They grow up being misdirected subconsciously on this planet to think in terms of fear of almost everything. Fear of death, fear of the future, fear of taxes, fear of foreign countries, fear of nuclear war, fear. And they just think it, and all their fellows think it with them in the atmosphere of this planet. It's any wonder no one can get out of it on their own? You have to cross paths with someone or something or beings who did not grow up on this planet, don't have subconscious minds through which they can be misdirected to get help that's necessary here. Because your fellow beings don't know how to help you get out of here or get anywhere that I can see.
I know
Psychology, psychiatrists, doctors, philosophers, people with PhDs, if they're not classified, are working with theory. They don't have any answers.
Yeah.
So how do you solve that? Well, on your own, on a planet, when you grow up being trained and taught by people who also don't know who they are, what chance do you have of finding a way to recover all that? You have to do something on your own courageously that somehow creates crossing paths with beings that can really help you. You've done that, Gail, when you crossed paths with me. You did that despite, against all odds, you could ever do it. Looking at the internet, all the fear and planet Nibiru and everything's going to combine. It's going to be a meteor. It's all going to be Armageddon any day now. Next Sunday at 12 o'clock, the end of the world, blah, blah, blah.
And I still do the Hue regularly because it really helps with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it does. But people don't know what that is.
No, they don't.
They really don't. I always make it simple by saying, look at it this way. The omnipresent, meaning that energy field that is living energy that is not made of matter. It's not nuclear. It's not electrons, protons, and atoms and all that stuff that people on Earth know very little about, actually. It is an energy that is under and behind all things, even the void of space, what they call dark matter. They know it's packed with energy. It looks dark to human eyes because they can't see into a high enough frequency, so it appears black. It's really a brilliant white golden light filling the void of space between planets and stars and galaxies and other galaxies. It's full of energy that's supporting all that. And it's not gravitational. It's not based on gravity wells and spinning gravity on planets. Those things float in this other medium. And that medium that individual spherical energy beings, atmas or souls, move and live and have their being in, running bodies who have long forgotten they aren't bodies they're running, for one, have a telepathic link into that medium. So the first sound or word behind all creation is not a written word in any book. It is a sound, but not a sound from physical matter planes, from a sound or an energy creation that's began far up into the upper worlds beyond what people know as the void, before the lower dimensions of time and space were made. And Atmas, you and I, and beings who run bodies unconsciously on Earth, originated there. Wow. There is no super being up there sitting on a throne that created us as its own objects and called soul and sent into the worlds. That's what they're taught in religious beliefs.
Yeah.
It's all about belief, and someone tells you what to believe in, but you don't have any direct experience whether that's true or not. I've always said faith is a great place to start, but a terrible place to end up. Simply because if all you have is faith, and you never find a way to know for sure what you are and what your association is with the source behind all life, then you die in doubt and fear. And that will draw to you those beings and those things that will help you get probably back into a situation where you're compelled to reincarnate here in another body with no memory again. That's really not healthy. It's not the will of some supreme source. It is the will of dictators pretending to be that source between the source, below the void, and in the lower dimensions that affect life and beings on many world systems, not just Earth. So you might say that our purpose for existing is to one day find a way to recover who we are as a being, and then discover that our purpose for existing is to be a trustworthy co-creator with that source. Co-creator. That means what we're comprised of as a sphere of energy is made of the same thing as that original source on an individual scale, like on a drop of ocean in a mighty ocean, drop of water in a mighty ocean of that same energy. And it doesn't have anything to do with molecules or protons or neutrons or electrons. Bodies do. The being running a body, running the brain, does not. Is not made of that. It is energy, but not as people on Earth understand it.
I'll have to get my spherical picture, which is not 3D, but it helps depict that back up on my wall.
Yeah, it's on the book here that's published right there.
There we go. Yeah.
And of course, that is what the Atma or soul looks like. Multidimensional. It comes from white light through the spectrum of color to an outer layer that's violet. There's a golden energy around it. This is the Emerald Doorway, book one of the Parallel Time trilogy. And this being, this master teacher, is holding a quartz crystal staff with an Egyptian Ankh symbol on top. It's like a cross with a little vertical oval hole on it. And they're on anti-gravitic discs. These people are not from Earth, but they're hovering above these discs after the poles flipped the last time on Earth, destroying Lemuria. In most of a continent, 2/3 its size at the time was Atlantis or Atla. All except a volcanic island, which grew into a seafaring power over the next 70,000 years to become the Atlantis that Edgar Cayce popularized, which was destroyed through the misuse of science 35,000 years ago, not 12,000. So anyway, if you go back further in Earth history, you find out this stuff, and you have to go and find it out and experience it for yourself if you really want to know. It's an open vortex to a dimension above the void, the first of the higher worlds. This has come out of that down here. He's introducing these three characters. There's Etta, little anti-gravitic silica-based creature, very intelligent, very loving, hovering in the air on his luminous tail, an organic creature that evolved with the ability to defy gravity and fly through the air. He's not from Earth. This is a human male, not from Earth. This is a female humanoid. She's blue-skinned, little webs between her fingers, and she can breathe underwater or on land. They're not from Earth. This is his ship, hovering stationary, and he's introducing him to what real life is. And at this time in the book, none of these four beings, except this guy, but these three, don't realize they have one of these hovering above their own head running those bodies at this time. So that will help. This is more about the history of Earth that happened before the last polar flip involving extraterrestrials, good and bad. So the influences are there. The series agenda is about what extraterrestrials and life and master teachers in other dimensions of the realities. Vast numbers of worlds have recently gone through to change their consciousness to have them focus on Earth to try to rehabilitate or recover fellow beings that have long ago been put on Earth with no memory in galactic history. This is a mile-long cylindrical Emerald Star cruiser. It's part of a galactic alliance. It is not a federation. It's a galactic interdimensional alliance of free worlds. It's comprised of more than 450 million spacefaring world systems in many parallel dimensions of the physical universe, not just one. It's double-ended. There's a bridge control on each end. It has a blue anti-gravitic field around it, as do these Scout-class ships that are entering the center section here. By changing their molecular time rate, they move right through the metallic structure of the hull, then lower the molecular time rate and land. There are no open doors in this ship. This is made for travel across the galaxy or to other galaxies as well. This is stationed in the ice rings that make up the rings of Saturn in our solar system right now. And if it wasn't, and others had not been in secret locations on Earth, we would have all been dead from nuclear war, because they were stopped nuclear war here many times, which is extremely highly classified. During the former Cold War with the Soviet Union, people on Earth actually pushed the button to annihilate the planet. Their launch computers were shut down but not from people on Earth. So you see, when you know that, you don't have fear of the future of nuclear war. That's gone. When you know what you are as a being and can leave it and go out of your body and explore the multiverse, the fear of death is gone. Fear of the future vanishes. My work is about helping people recover that awareness.
That is so important.
That's why I'm here. So
you're not from here, are you?
No. No, I'm not. Recently, I'm not. But anybody living on Earth today did not originate. The beings, the Atmas running bodies today, even the types of bodies we have here, did not originate on this planet. When this planet could have life of a human nature inhabiting it, the dinosaurs were first made extinct. And then people came here to colonize this planet. And under treaty, good and bad cultures as well. Different spots, small areas. No one race has been allowed to dominate this world. Earth has always been like a Switzerland to people from outer space. People have tried, but they've failed to dominate this world. Tyrants and that kind of thing. And they tried after World War II and failed. Or we'd all be dead, because tyrants would love us to kill most of the people's population on this planet off. It's easier to control 500 million than 7 billion. So,
That's what they wanted to do.
If you look at it in a negative way, like tyrants, well, we got to kill off 6.5 billion people because there's too many people. So we kill them off in favor of an elite. Extraterrestrials that are kind would look at that overpopulation as we got to relocate 6.5 billion who will do it voluntarily when they're aware enough in order to bring this planet to 500 million where it should be. The difference is in how you approach something. And wherever you're focused, you're going to be drawn to those kind of people in your life. And if your focus is fear and anger and negativity and throwing stones at all the wrong places and arguing and debate and all that, you're wasting your life energy on this planet completely. They'll run you around in circles and you'll never get any answers from it. And if you seek out people that are speaking negative jargon about the future, you're going to be just in fear of the future the rest of your life. And fear creates disease in the body. Tension, tightness, muscles, aches and pains. It's negative. Tyrants know that. Our job is to not agree with that and stop giving it energy. Because if you don't, how can you change? How can anybody change? If they're committed to putting negative things out in the atmosphere along with all your fellows who do it every day. People on Earth do not have the awareness. The entire mass of them, classified government, military industrial complex, the mass of people, politicians, they don't have the awareness of a normal human being. They think they have. They don't have enough awareness and use of higher faculties anymore on this planet to save this place from the direction they're heading in, which is just convoluted nonsense, making mistakes in judgment on a worldwide level every day of the week. And when it doesn't work out, spending money, throwing stuff at it, try to fix it. It doesn't work ultimately. People on Earth are going to require the assistance of vast numbers of kind beings, far more advanced, human as well, in order to change this place and time. It is a fact. It's not conjecture. So, if we were really alone in the universe, we'd all be dead right now. It's coming up on 2020, no nuclear war yet. It's because they can't have one. They aren't telling people they can't, but they've been made to know in no uncertain terms that that won't be tolerated. Nobody from the stars wants to run this stupid planet of backward people and take on all of its dishonesty and deceptive nature. Oh. They want people on Earth to straighten out themselves and wake up and then run it correctly so we can play among the stars. Many people on Earth that are unconscious here are relatives and friends of people from out there. And how are you going to return to that unless you recover who you are? You're not.
Well, don't people have to know the truth in order to be able to make changes?
Right. And the best way for people I know of to work with them is when they're out of their body every night. And they don't know what they're doing. They don't remember what it is they're doing when they're out of their body. When the body is put into the trance state we call sleep, the body goes into a trance state and runs on automatic. Lungs work, heart pumps, but being's gone. People on earth, even the worst terrorist, the most diabolical person can go to sleep at night. And they do it just like an expert without consciously knowing what it is they're doing anymore to put that body to sleep. Because when it's snoring and it's asleep, there's nobody home.
People seem to think that they need that subconscious in order to run the body, like when they're sleeping or whatever. And that really, from what I'm getting from you, that's not really true.
Why would anybody think it's normal to have a subconscious mind?
There's
only one type of being in the universe, Gail. There's only one type of being in the universe that wants you to have a subconscious anything, and that's a tyrant, religious, political, or otherwise. Most of the supreme being people worship on earth are tyrants pretending to be that in the lower dimensions, mandatorily making them worship them, giving them nothing in return. What a waste, because they don't know anything. They're kept ignorant, stupid on this planet. And there's a lot of people on earth, as you well know, that are realizing they're being hoodwinked and misdirected by their own people who are hoodwinking and misdirecting them because they themselves were hoodwinked and misdirected. And they're just feeding the same system for thousands and thousands of years. The planet has not improved or changed. As far as truth and honesty is concerned, it's still the same despicable place it was in Rome.
Yeah, it's so true. Sad,
but different. True. So when you look at it, then you realize that this planet is actually not a normal human world. It never has been one, not yet. But it is destined to become one for the first time, unexpectedly. And not because of what people on earth have the will collectively to do, because they don't have free will like they think they do. Okay, I'll give you an example. Why would you want to run your body with a subconscious mind? Anything subconscious means it's below your level of awareness, or you're not aware of what's being put in there or who's manipulating it. Subconscious is designed to affect your nervous system in negative ways so you make incorrect decisions about almost everything. A normal human being on another planet does not have a subconscious mind at all.
That is big right there. Like I said, people thought that was necessary in order to run the heart, run the lungs, and all that. That's what I've heard from people.
It's not a subconscious mind that runs a body when you're out. It's you.
Yeah,
it has an energy link that runs from the white core of the being that's spherical, solar atma, to the pineal gland in the center of the brain, which is how the bodies run from the being. And then it runs the brain, and the brain the pineal gland will secrete serotonin, it makes melatonin. These are chemicals which basically keep the body breathing and heart pumping while you're gone. And there's a link to it. It's not a astral cord or a golden cord or a silver cord. It is something that is unbreakable by anything in the lower dimensions or any being, any technology. And it links to the pineal gland in the brain and runs the body while you're out exploring the multiverse. People do it every night and bring back virtually nothing because they grew up on a planet with absolutely no training whatsoever in any of this, or why they should even think a dream's important, or why they should even try to bring back any information to hear. They have no idea that they can leave their body consciously. They do it every night, but they're not conscious of that fact.
Yeah.
And so they can be manipulated and kept like a little slave class on this planet, busily mining and doing things, having some of that stuff shipped off world under a treaty they don't know about to give it to certain tyrant extraterrestrials in exchange for antiquated extraterrestrial technology. Worst agreement anybody's ever made. And the people that made it against their better judgment regretted it and have regretted it since. And they're trying to undo it. And they're getting help to undo it.
That's refreshing.
Yeah. And if they weren't, ask yourself why it is this Zoom meeting, which is done through a satellite link. There's a military chip in every satellite orbiting this planet. I don't care how commercial it is or what it is. Then why aren't they shutting this off? If I was a threat to them, if what my work had to do with threatening, a military-industrial complex, or political elected leaders, or a classified government that is not elected by people, that's been running the world really unknown to the masses. If this was really a threat to them, why wouldn't they shut this or attempt to shut off this satellite? They don't. There's a reason. Because they know what's coming not only cannot be avoided, they're going to have full disclosure, whether they like it or not. And for them to be in a good position with the public, at least acceptable, they're going to have to do a full disclosure here. And they're getting the help to do it in a way that will be non-destructive. It's very simple. Common sense. You can't wake people up rioting in the street and blowing up cities. It's just moronic, asinine to even think like that. People from other worlds don't think like that. They're not going to support waking people up through that medium of destructive nonsense. So they have to go about doing this in a way that will wake everyone up. Otherwise, you can't have a world playing among the stars with beings who can be trusted to go out there, be given the technology at no cost from others, from outside of Earth. We can't be put in that position the way this planet is now. Two countries don't even, everybody's lying to everybody else. Two countries can't get along and the public's lied to about everything. No, you can't take that out in the stars and throw that vomit on everyone else. They're not going to tolerate it. They're not going to put up with it. Would you?
No.
No. So whatever people are being told in order to keep the whole system classified regarding extraterrestrials, it has no future. None. And they know it. People that are running the governments today, behind the scenes, know there is no future in space the way they're perpetrating that on the public. There's no rocket ships to other planets that's ever going to happen. They're too slow and they can never get there. You can't take people across the stars in weightless and zero-G environments because their bodies would atrophy. They already know that from an astronaut from the US and Russia that spent a year on the space station. They came back damaged with bone marrow missing, body mass loss. They would never survive a trip to Mars and back unless you have artificial gravity. And then it would be very slow, 2 years each way. You can't get out to the stars that way, and you never will be able to. So people in the more classified arenas know that already. Can't get there around planets. And that kind of technology will never do it. And a lot of very sincere people are working diligently on this planet to get into space this way, not realizing there is no future in it that way. They're just being deceived. They're not being told the truth about the extraterrestrial reverse engineered technology that's already being utilized to get off planet. But only within our solar system, because this solar system is quarantined. The way we are will not be ever allowed to go play among the stars till this planet has run by one benevolent governance system and people are awake enough to be trusted to go out there. We'll be given the technology to go out there at no cost when we meet the requirements, not before. That's the truth about the future.
In order to meet that requirement, it requires these beings helping people at night to understand this. Correct?
Yeah, they go out of their body. There is fear. They're approached by beings that they recognize or made to recognize they once knew or trusted long ago. And something tells them that this is okay and they don't feel fear. And then they're shown the truth about what they've been manipulated in fear not to know, not to remember. And then they make change and they wake up in the morning with a different consciousness. Collectively, they make different decisions. They start to move in the right direction. It has to be done this way, so there isn't rioting in the streets. Mm-hmm. No lines for gas in grocery stores and the rest of that stuff. People are going to voluntarily want to give all that up anyway, including the governments, including money, be done away with.
Wow, that'll be a good one.
Because it's illegal. It's illegal on this planet.
It's illegal. Money's illegal off this planet.
Only tyrants, right? Tyrants use it to control people, to brainwash them. You know, look, even we have to use it until we don't have to use it, so it's practical. This $5 bill is paper from a tree. It's made from bark from a tree with some ink painted on it and says legal tender, and everybody will take this all day long to get your burrito, or they won't give you one. There's no gold or silver or any precious metal backing any currency that I know of on this planet.
They say they're going to that.
Instead, okay, look. It's just an illusion. If it's not paper, it's digits in a computer. Because gold and silver and platinum do not back the financial systems of this planet. The rest is brainwashing. People are conditioned to its use, or they won't buy or sell anything, which is understandable. And it's okay to use it until the whole world doesn't want it anymore.
They talk about the currency being backed by gold. Is that all deception too, or do you know?
Who's they? What are you talking about? Get this on the internet?
The government. I've read it. People.
That's baloney. There's no gold backing anything in this country. There's no silver. Nixon took us off that standard when he was president.
No, they're saying they're going back to it, whether or not that'll actually.
Well, do you see any evidence of that?
No, unfortunately not.
Because if it did, it would say on these money that this is legal tender in worth gold. You know, I mean, it's like they had on the original currency in this country.
Mm.
But no, there's nothing behind it. You know, you could say that relatively the strength of trade of a country might be behind it in a way, but yeah, but really there's nothing actually behind it. No, technically there isn't. There's no metal of any precious value backing the currency in this country or anywhere in the world that I know of.
No. Well, they say that Trump is going to do that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Going to make it gold back so that it actually...
Well, that wouldn't be just up to him as a president now, would it? No.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot bigger than one presidency, and it's Congress and Senate and everybody else. You know, it's not just a presidential decision. There's more to it than that. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Better to, you know, even if we went back on a gold standard, what would that do? You can't buy a sandwich with a bar of gold. You still got to trade it in for paper, bark from a tree, to buy anything. See, it doesn't.
The whole money thing is a problem.
It's funny, and I know, and I have a balanced view of it. I mean, I don't tell people go throw it away and go live in a teepee and eat herbs from the find in the ground or anything like that. No, that's not practical because everybody on earth is brainwashed to the same thing. So you're not going to live well unless you deal with money. But if you use money and you're conditioned to it, if the government threatens to take it away, then they control you.
Yep.
They threaten to take away the bark from a tree from you. Toilet paper is made out of the same thing money is. Bark from a tree. And that's the fact. It's true. I'm not lying to anybody. It's honest. It's the truth. It is, literally. It's made out of sawdust, made into paper. Special materials on it, and then ink put on it, and then it's legal tender. And that's it. There's your money. And everybody agrees to exchange it, then it works. A barter system will not work to change this world because somebody will have all the chickens and cows more than anyone else, and they'll still be in the same position of lording it over everyone.
Yeah.
That won't work either.
People
It doesn't.
Sometimes.
The beings I know of that worked in huge numbers of world systems in the hundreds of millions do not use currency or barter. People can't even conceive of how that could work on Earth because they have
Exactly.
no understanding of how to be normal or what normal is. They've got nothing to compare it to that they remember. Nothing. They don't get brought up being taught anything about anything that makes any sense relative to all the other vast natures of evolved beings that are in our universe. People on Earth are wondering whether there's life on other planets, and they've been conditioned, misdirected deliberately to think this way. It has nothing to do with truth or what's out there whatsoever. Get two kinds of scientists here on this planet. PhDs, classified, that know a little bit about extraterrestrial stuff, and you get PhDs more deeply classified that know without a shadow of a doubt extraterrestrials exist because they work with them or trade with them. And then you've got PhDs that teach theory about science and whether there's life on other planets in universities who do not know what their peers know in the classified arena, and they're being kept in the dark too. And those are your teachers for your populace. And you will never know the truth growing up with a PhD unless you're shuffled off into the classified community and told the truth, for which you will sign your life away, that you can never talk about it to anyone.
Wow.
And then they, I wouldn't want to live in that way, because people have to lie to everyone every day. And lying is deception, it's dishonesty, it's negative, and it produces negative results in their lives. They get disease, they die just like anybody else. What's the point? If you think about it, do we really have a future going into space like Star Trek the way we are now on this planet? The answer is no, we do not. There's no way you can take this perverted, dishonest culture of fighting governments, competing over resources in space, and somehow take it out there and throw all their fear and subconscious misdirection on all those other worlds and beings who don't work with it and who will not tolerate it. They just won't. And I wouldn't either. So they're more interested in helping this planet of unconsciously, subconsciously misdirected people recover who they are and what they knew before they were born and how they really are as a being and what their purpose is in co-creating with the source behind all life. Not being a co-slave under its dominion, demanded to be worshiping it or to get a lightning bolt up your keister. No. The only thing that source, if you've ever been to the source behind all life, then you know that source, which is way above the void and below all the religions and all the stuff that's ever been taught anybody, especially on Earth. If you go to that source, there's only one thing that requires, and it isn't worship. Never even suggested it. It's to respect the source from which we all come, each other, and all life in the grand multidimensional universe. To respect all that, you have to know what that life is, don't you? You can't do that on Earth, not even knowing if life exists on another planet. How can you fulfill that requirement? You can't. So
That's intentional, isn't it?
there's a lot of waking up. People on Earth are headed to undergo, whether they like it or not, because right now they're not directing their lives on Earth collectively with true free will. How can you say you have free will if you don't know what you are, running a body, not the body, how to move it around the multiverse, how to communicate with other beings who travel the stars, who also know how to get in and out of their bodies since birth? How can you claim you have free will on a planet if you can't remember how you got to be on this planet or what you knew before you were born here? Where does free will come into that? Because I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to recover first free will, real free will. They can make better decisions collectively about how to run their world and play among the stars. It's very simple, really.
If you were a leader on this planet and you had some idea about what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
what could they do to help that come about?
On their own, they can't. They don't have enough free will or higher faculty use to make correct decisions as government people. And I'm talking more about the government that's worked worldwide, that is nominated by people in their own system, that has nothing to do with public voting anywhere on the planet. People on Earth are not involved in that system. It is not an electoral democratic process at all. And those people are going to require the help from advanced beings as teachers and benevolent, kind beings to help them out of this unconscious stupor they're in right now, which was done to them really without their consent, illegally, misusing extraterrestrial technology on them by tyrants, breaking an off-world treaty. And that treaty, they were caught breaking that treaty so many times. Ships have been shot down in our atmosphere that we didn't shoot down. And we've collected those ships. Reverse engineered technology, some of it's been given to us under treaties with the wrong guys, I must say. Because good guys out there would not give us nuclear bomb technology now, would they? So who did? Who snuck it into Hitler and his scientists illegally? Because it came from off planet. We didn't earn it. We didn't develop it ourselves here. And then you really begin to understand the true nature of the critical razor's edge we've walked on this planet. When you become aware that this planet and all that it manifests right now is an example of extraterrestrial influence, good and bad. Never originated on this planet. Language did not evolve here. Different races represented here did not evolve here out of the primordial soup, out of amoebas or fish, or monkeys or Neanderthal or any of that. They evolved, these genetic forms were brought up to this form of genetics for one purpose. So the being, the spherical being, could run higher faculties of creativity through the nervous system of a body like this. People aren't doing that on Earth today. They are not. They don't know any of this anymore. They're still an atma running a body, but they don't remember that's what they are. So most people identify with this somehow being divine. That this body is in the image of the Creator. It isn't at all. The energy, you notice things in space like planets and moons and stars are round. Why are they round? Collectively, the beings coming from the source that make up the source, the supreme source, if you want to call it that, patterned them after their own image.
That makes so much more sense than what we're told.
Otherwise, you'd have planets and suns out there with 2 arms and 2 legs going, "Hi, everybody." Floating
Yeah,
around space.
imagine.
I'm made in the image
All
of
these
God.
planets out there with legs and arms.
It's so silly. I mean, but you can't help it. I don't blame people on Earth for being so misdirected. They don't have anything else offered to them right now. And that has to come from outside this planet. From people who don't have this problem, that don't lie to their people, that don't have court systems and lawyers and everybody deceiving everybody. They don't run that way. Other worlds, the majority of them are not run anything like what is done on Earth. They got over that hundreds of millions, if not longer ago, years. Anti-gravity is not new. Mastering the genome code on the DNA is not new. It's ancient. It's just not allowed on Earth. It's not been provided openly on this planet. Cures for diseases? Done a long time ago.
Well, if there wasn't so much negativity, there wouldn't be so much disease either, correct?
Well, if you had in the beginnings of life as an experiment developed amoebas and little one-celled animals, and you started devolving them on different planets to eventually you could create human beings, and the human body and brain does not run itself on automatic. It's a machine. It's like a Jaguar car. You turn the key, the battery starts the motor, and you run the car. If a being doesn't get in that car and turn the key, the body just sits there like a vegetable and does nothing. It cannot run itself.
It's a good analogy.
And people don't realize this because they're running it unconsciously without awareness of how they're doing it. That's subconscious control of the body, putting it to sleep at night, going to sleep unconscious with the body and waking up without any memory. Yeah, you could say you're running it subconsciously, but I would call it more running it unconsciously. Unconsciously.
Yeah.
And you could call that subconscious because the being's no longer aware that they have this higher ability to run a body and put it to sleep and leave it. They've forgotten all that on this planet. And that's not normal at all. People just think it is because they have nothing growing up to compare it to that would show them otherwise. So why should they have confidence in leaving their body or what they do when they're dreaming at night or anything else? And these are the people that grow up running your world for you. As misdirected as you are or anybody else, you can't blame them for making consistently constant mistakes in almost every direction. They're not working on all thrusters, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
I just, I wish things could change a lot much faster.
everybody does. And I'm certainly you're preaching to the choir in that one. But we got to realize that the complexities of untying the tight, misdirected, terrorized, subconscious program knot that's in people on Earth, they don't even know they have, has to be done carefully so that everybody doesn't just go postal on the whole planet, blow the place up. They've already tried that, came close to it a number of times. How crazy do you have to be as a being? How insane, thinking you're normal, do you have to be to think it's a cool idea to set off a hydrogen bomb in your own atmosphere with radioactive half-life of 500,000 years falling over the planet in the jet stream, just to see if the weapon works? How insane do you have to be to think that's a cool idea? Hmm?
Yeah.
Do
Pretty
people
insane.
really think that the same people that would set that stuff off in the atmosphere had the spiritual or personal discipline not to push the button to go to war because they think that was cool too? Or they, out of fear, they're threatened so somebody pushes the button first, their side or ours? Does anybody for a minute really believe we avoided nuclear war on our own? That kind of people? No, we didn't. We're not alone in the universe, and we never have been. My work is about helping people recover the awareness of what and who they were and are before they ever were born here with no memory intact. And that involves a vast host of beings from many other world systems and higher dimensions as well involved in this process, and it's heading in one direction. There's no power on this earth or in this universe that can turn that or slow that down or keep that from coming our way, because it is. And that doesn't mean Planet X coming by and blowing up the earth or anything like that. No. Could have, but that's all been neutralized. It's not going to happen. It's clear to anybody with any common sense. It's not going to happen. All the psychic predictions and destructive future Armageddon stuff everybody's been blabbing about for decades, none of it's ever happened. It's not going to. Which just means that we're not alone. Fortunately for all of us still living on this planet.
Yeah, really. Very fortunately.
You have any questions for me you think your listeners would like to know answers to along this line before we go on a journey?
I think you've answered a lot of questions that people are interested in right up the gate. I mean, we talked about the subconscious mind and how they don't have that out there and how it's illegal to have a money system because of the way it controls people.
And that doesn't mean I'm advocating getting rid of money, everybody, dropping it like a lead brick right now, because they'd all starve. Your fellow beings would all be in the same control and nobody would sell you anything. No, that's silly. We have to deal with what we have to until governments collectively work together and collectively we decide to get rid of this stuff because we don't want it. It's in the way of our going out and playing among the stars with others. It's literally in the way.
Yeah.
And we'll not be able to take that out there.
I guess people's biggest question is how do I become more aware and what can I do to help the process along?
Well, I know what I do, and I know what billions of other beings do that are not on this earth. They're not even in this dimension. I mean,
lucky.
When you can travel to other higher dimensions and go to other world systems, go across the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth, they think that's the ultimate and can't get beyond it. Well, it's not correct. You can. There's many dimensions further up than that. It's a barrier between a higher system of realities that work on pure positive energy that doesn't have opposites. It's not positive and negative. It's not time and space. And then below the void, you have all the split current coming out of that creates the forms of the material universe from the etheric, mental, causal, astral, physical universes. It's 144 parallel dimensions in each one of those. 144 parallel dimensions in the physical universe. More advanced races can move their ships between them. When I talk about a galactic alliance that's more than 450, it's probably more than 500 or 600 million now, in just half of our Milky Way galaxy. There are world systems in the physical universe you see through the Hubble telescope, but also in 144 levels of that. It's big. And people that work with anti-gravitic technologies, as I call them, a term used off-world, understand how to change the molecular time rate of their craft electromagnetically so that they become part of these different realities. And they know mapped out and they know how to get around this. That's why people see spaceships suddenly pop in and then travel and zip around the sky and then pop out.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're just changing their
That's how they
time
do
rate.
that, huh?
And you don't see them anymore because they're vibrating at a higher molecular time rate than your eyes can perceive or ears, or that radar can detect.
Mm-hmm. Our eyes are very limited, aren't they?
Very small spectrum of light. You know, you see these pictures of the Hubble telescope, you know, these time-lapse photographies of millions of beautiful galaxies and all this colorful nebula. They're really beautiful like that. But the colors that you see in those come from computer systems that interpret what they look like beyond the range of human vision into higher frequencies of light. And they are beautiful. So the Atma, the being out of the body, sees that for what it is. You can't see that with the naked eye that way. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. Was that taken from us?
No, they're just human eyes aren't normally. Human eyes on other planets can see into greater fields of spectrum because their genetics aren't cluttered up. They don't have certain genomes on the DNA shut off like we do on Earth. Who shut them off is the question you should be asking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of what I was leading to.
Because when genes are shut off on the DNA, they're passed on genetically. Shut off.
Oh, and that's been going on for
a long time. They can be turned on. Doesn't do a being any good to turn on those, what they used to call junk DNA, which is now known not to be junk. They're just stuff that's not on. And they're trying to figure out how to turn them off and on like switches. So if you got a genome here that says thou shalt not have cancer, boom, you want to turn it on. If it's turned off, you're vulnerable. Thou shalt live 80 to 100 years, depending upon your genes. Well, how about if we turn it back to thou shalt live 1,000 years and look like you're 40 by the time you're 999? That's a genome on the DNA. There's a billion of them. They're switches. They are
a billion
switches.
of them, did you say?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of switches.
More than that. They've mapped out the billion genomes, even on Earth. They don't know what to do with them or how to turn them off and on, really. They're not up into that area of scientific understanding yet as far as working with the atomic molecular structure of the genomes on the DNA.
Is it a frequency thing or is it more than that?
No, it's a frequency thing for sure. You don't know those frequencies on Earth or even how to approach it, or it's just random. At least not yet. So, to beings on many of the world systems, the genetic mastery of the DNA, many humans have 4-stranded instead of 2. Earth humans have 2, and some of them are shut down, like telepathy and photographic memory. You know, some person can have a eidetic memory, and yet they're dumber than a brick. They don't do anything with it their whole life. Doesn't wake them up to what they are as an Atma or how to travel the multiverse, even how to get out of their body. And yet they've got this memory that can remember everything they see in the material world Earth. Well, whip-de-doo. What are they going to get out of the material stuff they experience on Earth that's going to tell them any of that? Well, nothing. So there's people that have different things left on or off according to how they were manipulated. But overall, the most important thing in genomes that should be turned on that allow the being to run higher faculties of knowing through the body are off in most people.
Wow.
What do you got left with? Intuition instead of telepathy. Telepathy works with direct knowing perception, not direct doubt perception, direct faith or theory perception, or direct debate perception. No. Direct knowing perception means you know. Either know or you don't. So, When we go on these journeys, to go back to answering one of your earlier questions that you put to me about how do people wake this stuff up? How do they begin that process? First of all, they have to have a safely available way that provides a safe way of doing it while they're living their life on Earth. That's number one. Then they have to have something they can actually put into practice to begin to request the assistance from advanced beings who do not have subconscious minds, who are not tyrants, who will help us recover, but only if we ask them. They aren't going to wave a magic wand and just do it to us, because people would learn nothing from that, and they wouldn't have the wisdom about how to keep what was woken up in them. They'd lose it again. This is known from galactic history. So there has to be something people can do that will set up a connection between the being they really are, not the brain, not the body, linked to the direct source behind all life through beings who are aware of that, who hear it when you do it, and can tune into you on Earth and, oh, there's John. Gee, we haven't seen John since he disappeared 4 million years ago out in the galaxy. Oh, guess what? He's on Earth and he doesn't remember who he is. It helps them know who you are. And that goes into tyrants having masked the individual energy signature of an Atma, so people couldn't detect it from space until recently.
Wow.
So things are very much changing out in the galaxy amongst the races out there that travel the stars. The tyrant races are quarantined in their own domains until they can be dealt with, changed not to be tyrants, because they were manipulated to become that way in galactic history. People on Earth have no idea it occurred at any time. The other half of the galaxy, a majority of it, is run by another race of beings who are human-like, 10 feet tall, very different from people on Earth, not originally from this galaxy. I know one couple that's 3.5 million years old. Their bodies are that old, unaged. That's one form of immortalization of a genetic structure. The Say rays, and my friend Ambassador Torellian, from the very advanced, most advanced race that existed in these galaxies, called the Say rays, are 18 to 25 feet tall, giant humans compared to us.
Wow.
And they immortalized their bodies over 1 billion years ago by dematerializing them and storing them in a faculty in the sphere of their being, which is not made of matter, not nuclear. And they move it around without the speed of light hanging over their heads in this medium that's supporting all life that is not nuclear. And they come to a planet, and then they work co-creatively with this omnipresent field of force, which is a co-creator with Atmas, and manifests the body to use the energy of it. And they take this program and it just materializes the DNA of that body that they had before they immortalized it. And they use it that way. So they don't have the awkwardness of carrying around a body on one planet, keeping it alive. They don't have to do that. That's a more advanced potential of what we can become.
Wow.
As an Atma. Because they're just Atmas too, doing that right now. For you to find out this, or for people to find out any of this, they're going to have their own direct awakening experience with it. So we go back to this first word, this word human. H-U, man, H-U, woman. Human. It's hidden in plain sight. People on Earth have no idea that that is a key to unlocking all this suppression. It first connects them to the source. They're not aware of it at first. They feel uplifted when they do it. And then it begins to bring beings and circumstances across their path that can help them unravel this tight knot of unconsciousness.
Sorry.
Somebody's up.
Yeah.
Get your little buddies up. Okay, so you'll shut off your mic. So we're going to be going on a journey anyway. It's a lot to get out when you share deliberately hidden or suppressed truth with people on Earth. People get reactive, they get afraid. I'm going to turn on the light here. afraid of the unknown, afraid of death, afraid of getting out of their body. They think a demon will get them if they get out of their body. And I try to point out to them, you're already God. You're on earth with no memory. You don't know what you knew before you were born. You know nothing about what's beyond earth anymore. And you're worried about demons getting you if you get out of your body? So you've already been caught and put on earth. That's already done deal. Now the only way you can go is up. And when you're in the Atma form, there is no negative nature technologically or extraterrestrial that can affect you, because this is not nuclear in nature. Can't be affected by weapons or beam technology or anything like that. Fear, artificial, is what misdirects the Atma to believe and put energy into that it can be affected by such things. In reality, it can't. So this is a lot for people to take in, but in the back of their awareness as a being in galactic and multidimensional history they were part of and no longer remember, something stirs in people when they first hear this, because it's telepathically being sent out by me. And they begin to remember, like, wow, that sounds right. I used to know that somewhere. It starts to unravel that knot. So I work with the first half of this word human, hue, because it sets up a sympathetic vibration through the vocal cords, or even just mentally if you imagine it, that connects to the first sound behind creation, which is not nuclear, right to it. And it's like the source begins to become aware of who you are living unconsciously in a body on earth for the first time in billions, even hundreds of billions of years. And you begin to unravel these knots with the assistance of other beings to go back to that source one day and download into it something unique that you've learned from your billions of years of incarnations and trials and tribulations that will benefit the source to run the lower dimensions better than it ever has. We're meant to be co-creators with it. We're meant to return to that source fully aware and help contribute to new ways of doing things. I know from personal experience this is true, which means if it's true for me, it's just as true for any other being. So I will work with this, and I'll usually start a journey. And the journey we go on these radio shows to give people an example of what it's like to put the body in the trance state called sleep, which is not a hypnotic state. The body is a machine. We put that in automatic so that the being can go on this journey into the other worlds and into other realities, free of the burden of the mechanics of the body, and all the fear they ever grew up with is turned off in this process temporarily. And then they can bring back the awareness to that body on our return. They do it every night when they go to sleep anyway. Only this way, they have kind of a guide or someone's voice to help them stay focused and awake as a being while the body goes to sleep.
It seems that the hue helps remove that negative programming when you're doing it, or at least a lot of it.
Well, let's just say it sets up the conditions whereby others who have the technological training, spirituality, the illumination, the enlightenment, the wisdom, who never were born on earth, who aren't trapped here, who can begin to help you to unravel that. Because you need their assistance to do it. You can't.
I've heard people tell me that when they did the hue, there was a peace that came.
That's true. It raised the energy, and you feel better. Relaxes the system, gets rid of dis-ease from fear. Turns off fear. The hue will go right that and turn it off until it can be permanently removed by your cooperation, conscious cooperation. Can't be any other way. Because if you want to gain back if we want to gain back who we are, then we have to have the direct knowing experience and certainty of knowing in order, and the wisdom to know how to maintain being free and never being vulnerably trapped again by anyone, anywhere in eternity. Ultimately, that's our destiny, is to be free in that way. People on earth do not know this. They don't remember this anymore. Can't blame them. So I will ask people to sit in a chair, lay down, be comfortable, take several deep breaths, and yawn if you got them, kind of thing. And just like you do when you go to bed at night. And then I'll send out these hue tones on successively higher tone levels to address not just the physical consciousness to get it to go to sleep, but the forms people are running in higher dimensions they don't even remember they have, and get them to go into sleep state, safe and protected. So the whole spherical being, soul or Atma, can consciously go out and journey in the multiverse and begin to recover who it is that is not and never was, never will be a physical body. That's a pretty big mouthful, but it's true. It's all true. So I'll begin these tones, which operate telepathically as an assist for people to get their body into the sleep state while they remain aware. Different than what they've grown up with the habit of identifying with the body and going unconscious with it. I'll begin those tones now. And then I can assist people to see and know how to remember and how to visualize what exists beyond this earth. Basic groundwork. So they can begin to know, because the truth is, you cannot go anywhere in the multiverse without imagining where you want to go first. And if you don't remember what to imagine, you're not going anywhere. Because this omnipresent force that underlies it, people call divine spirit, not really knowing what it is a co-creator with us, the spherical beings, which is identical to the source itself on a smaller scale. And it will create what we put into it with our imagination, good or bad, and create it in our lives. Thus, the need to deliberately only use the creative imagination, which is not made up in the brain, has nothing to do with the brain, nothing to do with the human body. The ability to see and imagine things in the other worlds is a function of the Atma, from the white core of the being, not the brain. The human brain can't imagine anything. It's not designed to do that. I'll begin those tones now. You. That prepares the way as the body goes into the sleep state, a trance state for the body. It means it's just running on automatic. That's what trance state means. Set on automatic. There's nothing to do with the being, you. You are awake. The body is asleep, goes into this sleep state. Same way you effortlessly put it in every night. The difference is this is the training and the direct experiential examples of how we go about moving into full awareness beyond the physical body, out into the multiverse to waken up and know things again as a being. Like most of the normal races who travel the stars can do from birth. Hu is the first half of the word human being. Human being, and even that language did not originate on this planet. Number one, if you're ever going to find any truth worth a damn, you got to get off world in your thinking and imagination, because none of it originated on this planet. Common sense. Human, Hu woman, Hu child. When you imagine something like a waterfall or a butterfly or a beautiful bird or the beach or a blue sky or meteors shooting across a star-filled night sky with no moon, and you can see that right now when you imagine it, when I first send it out telepathically to you. You know what it's like because you daydream, and you know what daydreaming is on Earth. You're bored in a classroom, you're bored at work, you look out the window at the parking lot. The physical eyes can see the parking lot, seeing light come in through the windows into your brain. But you imagining being at the beach or in the mountains is not done by the brain at all. Without people realizing it, the being that is spherical energy running that body, the white core of that being, is what sees this somewhere else, some other reality. It could be in outer space, on other planets, it could be in parallel dimensions, higher worlds, higher dimensions. If you have the ability to imagine it, you can see it. If you have the ability to imagine it and see it, you can go there. The Atma moves on an energy field that is not nuclear in nature. The speed of light has no limitations on the speed at which an Atma can travel from point A to point B. It is beings who know how to travel from point A to point B beyond physical or material nuclear matter that gave them the awareness of how to build devices that could do that across physical matter, like a galaxy, or to another galaxy. This cannot be done or effectively piloted, this kind of energy, without having this higher awareness. It is necessary because the creative imagination is involved in travel beyond the stars. More advanced craft are piloted telepathically, not psychically, that works with a dual positive and negative stream in lower dimensions, which is wholly unreliable. Telepathy works with the pure positive energy of the Atma and the source behind all life, and the entire omnipresent living field of energy that supports all of it in the grand multidimensional creation. The hue is not owned by, created by, patented by, possessed by, or manipulated by anyone on planet Earth, by any philosophical, religious, or government institution. It cannot be controlled by any of that. It did not originate on this planet. It didn't originate in the Milky Way galaxy. It didn't originate in the physical universe. Any group or organization that attempts to possess or sell it is in trouble, because it cannot be owned by them. It's like trying to hold air in your hand and then try to sell it to people. You can't do it, or you'll face some serious repercussions for trying to. It is not an energy that can be manipulated or controlled by any being, but it is an energy that will co-create, consciously co-create with us according to what we imagine in it. And that is the teacher. Ultimately, we have to come to an understanding that we are meant to only create with the creative imagination that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life, not just life on Earth. And this is required of any beings who want freedom. Total freedom comes with equal responsibility. Imagine yourself being above your body, just like you would imagine walking on the beach as you're sitting there or lying down. And you are a spherical being with a white core. And around it is a layer of, 2 inches thick of, say, yellow light with little teardrops in it, little individual faculties that are self-luminous. And then there's another layer that's kind of orange, and then red, and then green, and then blue, then violet, lavender, then violet. And there's a golden field of energy emanating from the core that surrounds it, a shield around the Atma from materialistic nature, atomic and nuclear nature. Let's put it that way. And as the white core of your being, or you could call it the third eye, you're looking down on this body, sitting there peaceful in the trance state or lying down. And you look down upon it kindly. This is a form you're running on Earth that has great potential to be recovered so that it can channel higher faculties of being of the Atma through it. This is what enlightenment is for the human system. The Atma has to be recovered and aware of all that it once knew and who and what it is that isn't physical in order to download higher enlightenment to the nervous system and brain you have grown up with on this planet that never had any of that programmed into it or growing up. You can be above the Earth in space like the space shuttle. As an Atma, you don't feel heat or cold. You don't feel radiation from the sun. And you're there not alone. I'm there. Gail's there. My friend Ambassador Torellian of the Say Rays is a beautiful Atma like us, a spherical being. And we're just moving in a circle around him, a bunch of us, and some friends from the Galactic Alliance itself. They're master teachers and also members of the Galactic Alliance who've been invited to go on this journey with us and to be there for those who go on the journey. So if you ask anything of them, such as help me remember who I am, get rid of these subconscious, implanted, misdirecting, negative, terrorizing programs, etc., they will assist you to be free of them one day through your own co-creative effort with them. They are not tyrants and they will not force this on anyone. Torellian, if you look at him now as a spherical being, and we're spherical beings, hovering in what you think is a black void of space. It isn't. to the physical eyes of a human being on Earth looking at a Hubble telescope, slow, time-lapse photography that gathers light, and you see all these millions of galaxies out there, nebula that's very colorful and all that kind of thing. And it looks like the area of space supporting all that is black. But it isn't. It just appears that way to human physical eyes. Can't see into the higher frequencies. It's actually a white golden light that supports that void in space between the stars, between the planets, and between the moon. And the void between galaxies is also this brilliant luminous substance. People used to call this dark matter on Earth. Now they know it's not really dark. It's packed with energy of some unknown characteristic that does not necessarily follow the laws of physics as it's understood on Earth. In other words, that energy has its own character, supports nuclear matter, but is not of it. A sun has to get its power for running from some other source of energy. It doesn't just ignite itself and run itself. Beings that people on Earth do not know exist run the mechanics of creation. Beings on Earth, when they recover who they are, can come to know these beings too. You're destined to do it one day, so you might as well get on with it. We're in space. When you look out now from your inner vision and you look at Turelian, you can see a body starting to form, standing in space out in front of them, right out of thin air. It's really coming out of that white golden light that surrounds everything. And Turelian is simply pulling the DNA structure, the pattern, from his being, and the energy's filling this form so that you can see what he looked like over 1 billion years, what his race looked like. We get our genomes for the type of DNA we have as human bodies on Earth originally from them, as do many of the bipedal, upright walking, spacefaring races. Not all of them are human. This goes back into galactic history. You can see him standing there with long golden hair and big blue eyes, a little bigger than Earth humans. Looks like a Greek god. He's given us 2 thumbs up because he's a person of little words. He does something with his thumbs up that's encouraging, supportive, stable, to help us have the courage to remember. It's effortless for him. Then you look and see that you, the sphere you are, you begin to see a body form out in front of you. It looks just like you. Made of energy, doesn't need to breathe. You don't feel heat or cold or radiation from the sun. It's an energy form that looks like you, about 36. Doesn't matter if you're a 10-year-old child listening to this or a 91-year-old person. You're going to be about 36-ish looking at the prime of a body form on any world. Some beings that look like they're 36 can be several thousand years old from the galactic alliance. Remember this. They are not like people on Earth. People on Earth think 80 years is an old person. You aren't even fully grown by the time you're 60 on some of these worlds. They age if they wish to, or they do not have the body age at all, depending upon how advanced their world system is. That's just control of the genomes on the DNA that they have. When you look down on Earth, you can see the polar ice caps, the continents and oceans you're familiar with. We're hovering in space without a spaceship, without the need to breathe air. Space is not a vacuum, as you've been taught. It is packed with an energy that is not nuclear. So they think it's a vacuum. Until recently, scientists thought that. They no longer think that. And you see the moon, barren, no atmosphere, meteor crater marks all over it, turning around the planet without turning on its axis. Very little gravitational field on that sphere because it doesn't turn to create one. When you're looking at the Earth, you're going to see Turelian move his 2 thumbs towards the Earth And then you're going to see a kind of a field of energy wave across it, like a heat wave in a desert. And you can see the world, Earth, suddenly change and the moon change. We have just moved our molecular time rate, the vibration rate of the atom, and the body form you see out in front of it, up to the third dimensional level above the physical Earth you're familiar with. It is a higher molecular time rate, a parallel dimension. And the Earth you're seeing now has no polar ice caps, covered with oceans, one big continent centered over the equator. It goes up towards the North Pole, about a third below it, comes down towards the Western Hemisphere, then it goes down below about a third of the way above the South Pole, and covers the whole equator across the face of the planet. And on the other side, you can see right through the planet, you're an atma, is a continent 2/3 its size centered over the equator. Down at the bottom, where this continent's in the middle of the equator, down about a third of the way above the South Pole, you can see a crescent-shaped, half-moon-shaped, crescent-shaped, glowing emerald green beach, even from space. And you look over at the moon and you see that it's covered with oxygen atmosphere, no polar ice caps. It's turning slowly on its axis as it moves around the Earth. There are 5 crystal clear dome cities covering 3 golden 4-sided pyramids with quartz caps in each one. And as the moon turns, you can see a couple of dome cities in the mountainous region on the back side. There are people walking inside the domes and outside. This moon and this Earth are in a higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. That continent you see there is called Lemuria, or Mu. The continent on the other side is Atla, or Atlantis. This Earth never had its poles flip over, destroying those lands, like it did in the world we're familiar with 100,000 years ago. The polar flipping cycle of planet Earth was permanently ceased a few years ago by the beings who run the mechanics of creation, so that Earth can begin to go through an unexpected transformation. The barren moon you know of that circles the Earth and the Earth as you know it today are not destined to stay that way. This world, this Earth that you're looking at, serves as a prototype, and it is very ancient. Down, if you look down on below the equator on that planet Earth, you see this emerald green beach glowing, drawing to you. You're attracted to it from space. And Turelian is pointing down to it. And in the next instance, you find yourself moving at tremendous speed through space, through the atmosphere, as an atma, as a spherical being. And you come to hover above what looks like a several-mile-long, half-moon-shaped beach made of emerald green sand that's glowing about a foot above the sand. You look up, you see a beautiful, clear blue sky on a sunny day. You look out on the ocean, gentle, calm ocean, and you can see Turelian's body form standing with his legs up to his knees in the ocean, and a spherical being, him, running that form. And you look down and you see your bare feet below you. And your bare feet are starting to sink comfortably into this glowing emerald sand. And you reach down with a hand and pick it up, and you can see that it's made of little round polished emerald crystals. And they're glowing. And the energy comes into your hand and up your feet, and it feels cooling and warm. It's very elevating. It moves up your spine, up the top of your head. Remember, this is an energy form. It looks just like you. And it goes up the top of your head, and as it does, you lift up your head smiling, and you see a sphere of a white core hovering above that body form, looking down on it, smiling up at it. Both are you. One is a body form made of the molecular construct of a time rate of this planet, so you can perceive and sense things there. The atma is non-nuclear, so it needs this in order to perceive what goes on in different planes and different planets. We have two ways we can go in a journey like this. We can go and see where this brown moss-covered path at the back of this curved emerald green beach goes straight back into these giant jungle trees, prehistoric-looking ferns. It goes back to a white marble floor about a mile inland, surrounded by tall lavender grass, 4 feet high. There's a statue, a crystal quartz statue of a woman there, and it continues up the mountainside to the base of a clear dome city covering 3 4-sided, golden-sided quartz-capped pyramids, surrounding a long, oval, ivory-colored dome building, a lake, a semi-spherical mountain range in the background with waterfalls cascading down it that was put there by the beings who built the city for aesthetic pleasing effect of those who have to work there. You look at this mountain range, that it sits at the base of this tall, single snow-capped mountain. It's an extinct volcano, like Mount Shasta in Northern California. And 2/3 of the way up towards the summit is a cavern opening. Out of it is roaring an emerald green blue water that's luminous with a mineral light, dropping thousands of feet down a sheer cliff face to disappear behind the dome and wind its way as the beginning of a river through a blue-green forest that surrounds that dome city. In front of the dome city, you can see 3 disc-shaped cobalt blue landing pads and 3 galactic scout craft with 3 semi-ferric pods underneath, and they're turned off, just landed there on 3 tripoded legs. Beings work here who are master teachers, highly evolved and trained members of the Galactic Alliance. The Say-Rays who protect this place. No negative nature has ever been allowed to come into this special 3rd parallel dimension of the physical universe where this planet is and that moon. There's no pollutions in the atmosphere, water, land, or anything else, and it's not overpopulated. And they have been coming back and forth from this parallel dimension to our reality, completely invisible to the inhabitants of Earth, to begin to set up this process. They work with people when they're out of their bodies at night to help them remove and be free of terrorizing subconscious misdirecting fear. Number 1. When we work with the hue, it begins to set up a connection to the source behind all life. And one's destiny from that moment onward is permanently altered. From what would have been another unconscious life dying in fear and being compelled to come back and reincarnate here with no memory to one that does not do that anymore. It's very important to know this, to understand this, or to work at it until it becomes knowing certainty within your own being, because that will be the end result of your working with the hue and choosing of awakened true free will to only imagine that which will be of constructive, benevolent, beneficial effect on all life. To do that, we have to become aware of what life exists beyond Earth. We have to begin to remember we used to know all this once long ago. Find yourself in space, in orbit above the planet, once again looking down at that emerald green beach. You can see the golden letters Lemuria appear on that continent, fade away, and on the backside Atla or Atlantis. So you know what it is. It is not the Atlantis or Lemuria in the history of the Earth planet you know of with polar ice caps where the poles flipped and destroyed the lands, like clockwork every 100,000 years. That cycle of Golden Age to Iron Age and back again has been permanently and forever retired. People on Earth will come to know this. You are in space. There's Terrellian, myself, Gail. There is a master teacher named Ramu with a maroon robe, sandals, short cropped black beard and curly hair, and he's holding this quartz crystal staff. It's got a golden glow around it, and up on top it's 6 feet tall. It's a cross with a vertical oval hole in it. It's called the Ankh, means eternal life in Egyptian culture, but it did not originate in Egypt or on Earth. And he holds it as a way for people to identify him, but it's also a device. And on the right, you see a master teacher named Opelin from the Oceanan race. He's 6 feet tall, long, shiny black hair, emerald green eyes, slightly pointed ears like an elf, and he's got this pale blue skin. Probably the idea of where Krishna came from with blue skin, maybe in the vague or ancient past, because the Oceanians have this beautiful pale blue skin. He's holding up his hands so you can see little webs between his fingers. Remember, this is a physical form hovering out in front of the sphere that he is, the Atma. And he's showing little slits under his neck, 3. You wouldn't see unless he lifted his neck, very unobtrusive. This human race evolved with the ability to breathe underwater on land. They live on a mostly water-covered world on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. They're one of the most advanced and ancient humanoid races, the highest form of crystalline-based science in the galaxy. The Say rays were their mentors. You're going to see a couple appear, 2 spheres, and then out in front of them you'll see bodies appear. They're 10 feet tall. The beings, masculine and feminine, have long silver hair, violet eyes, slightly pointed ears, and they approach in these elegant gowns. They move and walk in a very stately, dignified manner. Behind them are these beautiful spheres, these atmospheres, a little brighter than us. And they are a man and a woman, a mated couple from a planet called Xentronomus, Xentronomon 1. It's on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. This couple supervise more than half of the entire Milky Way galaxy of planetary systems that have never been involved in warfare. That all took place on the Galactic Alliance side of things. And they're telling you telepathically that these bodies they're showing you exist on their home planet, which is 4 times bigger than Earth, water covered, no polar ice caps, lots of land masses, and 3 moons at different distances the size of Earth with no polar ice caps. And there are domed cities covering pyramidal structures in all of them. They have a trinary sun system, a blue giant, a yellow sun a little further out like ours, and a red dwarf. These planets circle a 3-star sun system. And they are telling you the bodies you see are like the ones they have on Earth, that are more than 3.5 million Earth years old, unaged. If you look at Turellian, and we're kind of in the center, hovering above Earth, you see another couple appear, 2 beautiful Atmas, and bodies form in front of them, and a third one. They are from a race in a galaxy 5 galaxies away from us. They are called Das Ventalis, from Das Ventalis 1. The man and the woman are about 10 feet tall. One has green eyes, one golden eyes, and they have a son who's a fully mature adult, about half their height. They have this long silver hair, and they're related to the Xentronomus couple. Originally came from this galaxy, both. And they are telling you their body forms they're showing you, and their son, who's fully grown but doesn't grow to his full height for many hundreds of years, are more than 2.5 million years old. And then you see Turellian's 18-foot tall body standing in space. And he's already shown you that their form of immortalization is different. They're more advanced. They dematerialize their bodies and store them as an atom in their being. And you work with the omnipresent living energy, this white light, golden essence field of energy in the void of space, the dark matter so-called. And they will mock up this full physical form whenever they need it. And then dematerialize it and take off and go wherever they want. That's real freedom. These beings are simply showing you what there is that exists in the Milky Way galaxy that people on Earth are completely deprived of knowing anything about at this time. None of them are tyrants. Their technology is mind-blowingly beyond ours. The crystalline science of the Oceanan, Das Ventalis, Xentronomus, the mastery of genetic science, their crystalline technology is really out of this world. The Say rays were responsible at one time long ago for bringing into its existence and developing up to a higher genetic form these body forms that could channel higher faculties of the Atma. These beings you're seeing do not have subconscious minds. They know what they are as an Atma, and they know what bodies they're running. There's a big difference between them and what we are on Earth. But we have that potential. Remember this. People on Earth are going to find it out anyway. So might as well get ready for that, because it's coming our way. We can go from here way across the void, up in many dimensions above here, and visit a place in the upper world systems. And we can do that in an instant as Atmas. Terrellian is pointing upward, 2 thumbs upward, and when you look up, you will see a vortex of blue-green water-like light begin to form and whirl into an opening tunnel. This is made of energy of the omnipresent hue that is not nuclear. And it's putting a tunnel through time-space. It goes past the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth. And you can see a pale blue atmosphere up there, way at the other end. And then in an instant, you find yourself darting up the tunnel until you come out in this blue void. It's a pale blue atmosphere. The tunnel dissolves behind you. When you look around you, there's Terrellian. We're still all circling around him. The Stas Ventalis and Xantronamus couples and their son are here. Master Ramu, Master Opelum, Master teachers, whose bodies actually exist in a physical planet like they showed you, still unaged. And when you look around you, you see this blue atmosphere appears to extend in every direction into infinity, and there doesn't appear to be anything here except this pale blue light. And then in the distance, you see what appears to be, we're moving very fast across this void, and you see what appears to be a white sandy beach, like a little speck way in the distance. And as we zoom towards it, this beach widens out until it's a long white beach that extends into infinity in each direction. And we stop and pause in front of this white sandy beach. You see these trees, and they're made of clusters of crystals like flowers growing out of them. And we pause there as a group, hovering above this white sand, looking behind us into this void. This is the first realm of the upper worlds. There is a being who is the, shall we say, the caretaker of this place, named Satnam. It just means true name, first sound, first manifestation in any form you'll see that looks human. And you can see some birds coming down out of these trees that stop and hover in front of us in 2 rows, dozens of them. They have long V-shaped split tails and rainbow-colored bodies, blended beautifully and smoothly through the whole rainbow. They look kind of like a blue jay with big bulbous blue eyes and 2 sets of bird wings on their back like a dragonfly. These are highly intelligent genetic forms, and above them you can see an Atma running them. These are beings who are experiencing these highly advanced genetic bird bodies that have photographic memories, telepathic, and they have vocal cords, and you can hear them begin to sing this first half of the word human. You, men and women's voices, they sound like with perfect pitch, singing on multiple levels this sound that grows in intensity to greet us until it sounds like one whole round tone, vibrating the trees. You can feel it pulsing in the white core of your being. And then they all say in unison, you can hear it clearly in your being, welcome. And they fly back up to the trees and go about their business. We're moving now over the tops of this jungle inland, and you can see in the distance a long snow-capped mountain range, and at the base what looks like a crystalline palace, all different kinds of crystalline forms. It's not really a palace, but let's call it that so we can name it. And then we stop over the jungle and we see a clearing, a white marble floor several hundred feet across. And in it is a fountain, white alabaster, scalloped edges, and a statue of a being standing in it. Bronze skin, bald head, 2 golden bracelets on his upper arms, a white tunic dress from his waist down to his ankles, in bare feet, with his hands down to his side, like this, and a white golden light pouring from them, filling this fountain he's standing in, pouring over the edges, an even glistening, luminous, white golden sheet of light, and disappears in the marble floor below. When you look over the edge of the clearing, the path that winds its way up towards that palace, you see the man standing there, the actual being with the 2 golden bracelets the statue represents, and he's given us 2 thumbs up. And then Torellian's doing the same thing, hovering above this fountain. He knows we're there, and we've given permission to move forward, to go onward. So what we're going to see is the statue of the fountain of this man turn into a shaft of white golden light, and all of us are going to shoot up it. We're going to ride this current upward, and we're going into a special dimension created between the 5th and 6th dimension. It's called the U Expansion Ray Academy, and it's a training facility. And we come out the other end of that, and if you find yourself suddenly hovering in this beautiful blue, deep blue atmosphere, you look down and see this vortex, and you see the fountain all the way down at the other end, then it vanishes. And we are hovering in an atmosphere high above 6 hexagonal mountain peaks, snow-covered. When you look out over the distance, you see this huge landmass in a circle with a white luminous beach surrounding it. This blue atmosphere is completely surrounding this landmass, and it's floating in it. There are no stars, no moons, no planets. Not here. The atmosphere is luminous. When you look at yourself and others like Torellian and myself and Ramu, we're all glowing. Yeah. You still with us, Gail, or what's going on there? So, when you look out over this horizon, you can see a blue glass tower down on the lower plateau towards the western coast. It's coming up out of a white marble floor. It's transparent, comes up to a flattened spherical area, administration area, and up to a minaret point. There's a white roadway that goes straight as an arrow out to the western coast to that white sandy beach. And then there's little white roadways that extend off of the base of that blue glass tower in every direction, like the spokes of a bicycle, going through tunnels into the mountain range, into a hollowed out center of this landmass, and then continue in tunnels to the other side. So these roadways are extending in every direction. When you breathe in here, even though you're just a sphere, it feels like this blue energy passes through the white core of your being and lights it up and moves through you. And you breathe out, it comes through the other way. You are in communion with the nature of the energy of this blue atmosphere. If you look at it closely, it has white golden light behind it. This place was constructed to help train people in how to recover being a co-creator with the source, and to help beings who work here to create new ways of doing things, like how to run the lower dimensions without the experiment of evil, by retiring it permanently and replacing it with this energy that motivates all beings to only create that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. This is the experience you come to know being in this reality. Nothing of any negative nature or emotion or imagination can be brought with you here. It cannot pass the void we pass through. This is what you see and experience hovering here around Torellian with others. When you look down through this landmass, you can see all the way down through it, all the way back to Earth, until you see yourself hovering around Torellian, looking down on Earth with no polar ice caps in this live moon full of oxygen and atmosphere. And you find yourself all of a sudden down there, looking up through this blue-green, whirling, water-like lit tunnel. You can see that blue atmosphere all the way up, and then it vanishes. And then you look on the Earth, and it changes. And you see that it has polar ice caps, and the landmasses and oceans you're familiar with. You look at the moon. It's crater marked. There's no atmosphere. Does not turn on its axis as it revolves around the Earth. And then you see yourself hovering as a spherical being above your body in the trance state called sleep, peaceful, protected. Smile kindly down on that form. Allow yourself to download into that brain and that form that never had this experience. Put this experience into the consciousness you have on Earth to the best of your ability. And think kindly about it. Watch this white light with a golden essence flow through you, through the white core of your being, through the pineal gland, the center of your brain, out through your skull, out into the world like a flowing, smooth river. So it benefits you and on its way to benefit all life. And then, remember, you'll be able to play back the recording of this journey at a time when you're alert in the morning after breakfast or when you're going to be consciously calm. And then you'll go on this journey, putting your body in the trance state called sleep again, and you'll gain a lot more from it the second time through. When you're ready, open your eyes. I can take off these headphones now.
Turn my sound back on. Had a little minor interruption there.
Since it's been almost a month since we've had any kind of journey together, I need to keep it close to home, practical for people to begin to see how to imagine and travel closer to home, an Earth like Earth, but not Earth, and then all the way up to the Hue Expansionary Academy, because for the first time they get brought to a place that is above all forms of negativity and all negative imagination, because they can't take it with them there. Only the Atma can go there. And they come back and then put back on all this stuff they've been misdirected knowing and growing up with. And they'll have that contrast to work with. It starts to change consciousness in a good way. We could go to other planets and lots of other places, and we will in future journeys. But for now, we want to keep it close to home, somewhere where it matters to people. There's an infinite universe out there. Well,
makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yes.
And if you go to lots of planets and visit a million of them, you still don't know any more about who you are. It's not going to do you much good. Mm-hmm. So I want to leave your listeners with that.
I always come back from these journeys just feeling like I'm glowing.
And you look like you're all lit up, too, as a matter of fact. This is the intent for why I do this, for people who listen to, for their benefit. I have no other motivation than helping to bring about this transformation on this planet, which is why I came to this planet a very long time ago, which began then and got thwarted, but is no longer thwarted. So I'm carrying out a mission I started more than 60 years ago here. And it's beginning to be done on a galactic scale. So it's all good. It's all good. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I feel wonderful.
Well, then I'll stop the recording so we have an end to this journey and wish everybody pleasant dreams. And you can go to paralleltime.com. Gail will have it when I send the recording of this show. It'll have the websites listed, and it will have a new Reuters article like Forbes that came out about my work, and a beautiful short video narrated by the fabulous Jessica in New York that is linked as a YouTube video at the bottom of the article, and the people will be moved by that. I'm sure of that. They'll really enjoy it. So we'll put that on there. You can put it up on your YouTube channel.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Wonderful. I would love to.
If you will, and these two books, of course, are published because this is the first of the Parallel Time Trilogy. There are 3 of these. This is by itself. This is about the past and how it's affecting the present, extraterrestrial. This is about the present and life out there and how it's changed to actually begin to help transform this world for the first time. So those books are available. There's no shopping carts at my websites, but all the links, Barnes & Noble and Amazon and iTunes are all there. So they won't have to hunt for them. And if they want to, they can go get those books. There's no shopping carts at my websites. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you will enjoy it again.
Another free-range journey in freedom.
Especially the journey, yes.
See you later, Gail.
It's big.
I'm a stranger on a lost island, somewhere in the universe. Stranger on a lost island, on this island Earth. I'm a stranger on a lost island, somewhere in the universe. Stranger on a lost island, on this island Earth. I was just a little boy, I was different from my friends. Looking up in the stars at night, I'd feel homesick loneliness. I'd share a vision of a faraway planet where I once was given birth. Then reminisce of past civilizations no history reveals about Earth. Wide-eyed in fear, my friends stared at me, too confused to understand. They walked away in haste to spurn me like I was quicksand. Now I'm a stranger on a lost island, somewhere